is something we need. It's a leap of faith. Oh, if you have the will and the moment to spare, it's a beautiful world out there. It's a beautiful world out there.
This icehouse once belonged to Alva House and its estates. By the mid-19th century, most country estates had an icehouse, vital for keeping food fresh and providing a supply of ice for fruit sherbets and table decorations. This icehouse is the only one remaining from the many large estates in Clacks. Like the other Hillfoots towns, Alva benefits from flowing water, which historically was a rich commodity. Indeed, Alva was quick to establish on the benefits of the local flowing water. An early settlement and church existed here as far back as 1260, when control of the local estates were granted to Campus Kenneth Abbey in Stirling. After the Reformation, the local estate came into the ownership of the Erskine family. At the time, the grandest residence in the area was a tower house built much earlier, just to the east of the town. In 1636, Sir Charles Erskine incorporated this into a much larger Alva house. The 1700s saw Alva expand considerably. In the early years of the century, silver was found in Alva Glen, and a mine was opened by Sir John Erskine to exploit it, using miners from Lead Hills. The silver ore that emerged was the purest ever found anywhere in Great Britain, and made Erskine's fortune before the vein of ore ran out. At its height in the years around 1710, silver to the value of £4,000 per week was emerging from the mine. That was a vast amount of money at that time. Some of the money was invested in developing the Devon Colliery to the south of Alva, which started production in the mid-1700s. Erskine also built a short canal to link his colliery to the River Devon. The colliery later produced ironstone as well as coal, and a local ironworks had been established by the end of the 1700s. The first of Alva's modern wooden mills was established in 1798 on the banks of the Alva Burn, and other mills rapidly followed. The largest of Alva's mills, Strood Mill, began work in 1825. The textile industry in Alva diminished dramatically in the second half of the 1900s. The magnificent Strood Mill was always the most impressive of the town's mills, and it remained in use as part of a larger complex until 1976. It was converted into flats in 1987 and still dominates many of the views of the town. The uphill area of Alva shows clearly the social divisions in the town in the 1800s. Rows of single-storey mill workers' cottages line many of the north-south streets, while the east-west Ochil Street is home to the grand houses originally built for the mill owners. By the early 1800s, Alva House had been purchased by the Johnson family. They greatly expanded it in about 1820. The house passed to Miss Carrie Johnson in 1890, but on her death in 1929 it could not be sold. It was destroyed by being used for military target practice during World War II. The Woodland Park and the stables is all that remains of the old Alva House and its grounds. the Glen and next to the picnic area, there's an old quarry. During some quarrying operations over the Christmas period of 1912, James Murdoch uncovered the remains of a human skeleton which had been buried in a natural cavity in the rock. Following further investigations, it was determined that the skeleton was a prehistoric man, probably a young dwarven woman. Alva Glen is reputed to be one of many places in the Ochils where the fairy folk lived. Local legend says the place is still haunted by the spirit of a dangerous witch called Jenny Mutton. 2 days after uncovering the human remains, at the very same spot, James Murdoch was killed by the fall of a mass of overhanging rock. Some people consider this to be a judgment on him for disturbing the dead, while others suggest it was caused by the spirit of the witch Jenny Mutton. The church at Alva Old Kirkyard was dedicated to St Serf. It was granted to the canons of Cambus Kenneth in the 12th century and was altered several times, especially in 1631 by the Bruce family, who owned Alva Estate. The Erskine family acquired it in 1636 and had a burial vault there. The church became redundant when the congregation merged with another local church. It was demolished after a fire in 1984, but its footprint has been preserved. In 1775, John Johnson bought the estate and in 1789 commissioned Robert and James Adam to design a mausoleum for the remains of his wife. Johnson, his wife, and 6 descendants are buried in the original structure.
There is something we need, it's a leap of faith. How far do you think you can run, standing on your knees? It's a beautiful world out there, just don't pass on the dare. If you have the will and a moment to spare, it's a beautiful world out there. It's a beautiful world out there. Oh, if you have the